This video is sponsored by ExpressVPN. So it's no secret that these days streaming companies are hiking up prices left and right. That's already bad enough, but on top of that, they're always removing things and withholding certain content depending on which country you're from. If I'm going to be paying premium prices for streaming services, I might as well get access to everything that they have to offer, which I'm able to do with the help of today's sponsor, ExpressVPN. With ExpressVPN, I'm able to switch my location to, say, the UK, so I can access BBC iPlayer and watch any number of Louis Theroux documentaries. And since spooky season, I decided to finally watch Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City, which isn't available on US Netflix, but by switching over my location to Canada, it is ready to watch. Now, of course, VPNs are more than just a way to access geo-blocked entertainment. They prevent ISPs from logging your activity, allow you to bypass government censorship, and I personally would never connect to Wi-Fi, especially public Wi-Fi at like a gym or airport, without a VPN. You never know who's out there trying to steal your information. Really, at the end of the day, using ExpressVPN is a win-win on basically every level. Find out how you can get up to 4 extra months by scanning the QR code on screen, clicking the link in the description box down below, or by going to expressvpn.com/reignbot. Thank you to ExpressVPN for supporting the channel, and let's get into it. So, today's topic of discussion is a Japanese mockumentary series called Senritsu Kaiki file Kowasugi, brought to us by none other than Koji Shiraishi himself. There are at least 7 main episodes total, if I'm not mistaken, each covering a Japanese urban legend or folklore. For now, we're going to be focusing on the events of the very first episode, in which a small team of reporters attempts to hunt down and even capture the Kuchisake Onna, Japan's infamous slit-mouthed woman. The story opens up by introducing us to a 3-person documentary film crew. It consists of director Jin Kudo, assistant Ichikawa Miho, and their camera operator Tashiro. Kudo explains that they were recently sent a tape containing footage of a bizarre woman that's been terrorizing an unspecified neighborhood. Kudo asks Ichikawa what she makes of the clip. She notes the trench coat, mask, and long hair, all calling cards of the infamous Kuchisake Onna, one of Japan's most well-known urban legends, even internationally. Like most urban legends, the exact details vary depending on who you ask. But in general, this being is known for carrying a knife or a pair of scissors, approaching people, often children, on the streets, and asking, "Am I pretty?" despite wearing a face mask. Depending on the answer, the victim will either be killed straight away, or the woman might remove her mask, revealing horrifying cuts that extend from mouth all the way to ear. Some say it's possible to escape the Kuchisake Onna by answering her questions in a certain way, but who's to say for sure? Now, another calling card of the slit-mouthed woman is the ability to run at impossible speeds, making it inadvisable for anyone who encounters her to try to escape instead of answering her questions. This is something that Ichikawa and Kudo take special note of, as the woman seen in the submitted video appears to be running at an unusually fast pace. It's then that Kudo, already convinced of what he's seeing, declares that he intends to hunt down and capture the Kuchisake Onna, a feat that he believes will send his documentary flying off the shelves like hotcakes. At least for right now, this man appears to be completely motivated by profit. Ichikawa, on the other hand, doesn't seem so convinced of what she's seeing. On the way over to the location seen in the video, Ichikawa elaborates on her skepticism, noting that she thinks that this is nothing more than someone having a mental health episode, or maybe just someone dressed up looking to scare people. Next, we meet Yano Akira and Kitamura Kazushi, the two men who recorded the footage in question and sent it in. Yano, the guy with the scarf, explains that he lives in the area and had seen this strange woman a number of times. After Kitamura expressed interest in his story, the two decided to play amateur sleuth and go searching for her on their own. This resulted in the events seen within the footage. Now, the four core characters arrive at the exact location featured in the video and try to recreate it. Ichikawa and Kitamura both try running towards the camera, but when compared with the original footage, both are noticeably slower than the masked woman. Yano and Kitamura also point out how in the video, you can see the masked woman reappearing in an area that would have been impossible to reach within just a few seconds. The group confirms that none of this is humanly possible after following the path themselves. Ichikawa, still skeptical, wonders if maybe the woman took a shortcut somewhere, or maybe there are really two people dressed up in an identical manner. And at this point, the others ask the most obvious question on the planet right now: why? Why would anyone go through the trouble of staging any of this? Ichikawa and Kudo set out to gather more information by asking the locals if they'd heard or seen anything. The residents tell them about a woman fitting the description, a strange, masked woman that mutters to herself. One resident notes a particular unpleasant odor that said woman was giving off. Another leads them to pages and pages that were supposedly taped up by the very same lady. Upon first glance, these images appear to be nothing more than scribbles, random splatterings of characters and numbers, but upon closer inspection, Ichikawa and Kudo are able to make out quite a bit of animosity vaguely pointed at men. Following this, the duo decide to ask around a nearby park, assuming it was worth a try since more than one resident noted the possibility that the woman in question might actually be homeless based on her smell. Once at the park, they come across a man living in some nearby tents who confirms that he has seen the woman in question. Kudo slips him a bill, and this is when it becomes apparent that the film crew didn't actually disclose that they were recording. When the homeless man notices the camera, he tries to cover his face and also tries to get away, something that Kudo reacts incredibly negative towards. Kudo manhandles the guy as Ichikawa repeatedly asks him to stop. Instead of listening, Kudo hurls a number of insults at the homeless man, who eventually, reluctantly, agrees to talk. He informs them about a masked woman who was staying in the encampment about a month ago, staying at the site for a week-long period in which 3 other homeless individuals went missing. As the exchange continues, Kudo notices something wrapped around the man's wrist. It's bizarre, seemingly made of crudely braided hair. When asked about it, the homeless man explains that the masked woman gave it to him and a number of other people in the area, and even stranger, the man seemed convinced that the so-called amulet was actually meant to protect the wearer. The interview concludes, and after a brief sighting of the masked woman and more of her cryptic writing, Kudo and Ichikawa choose to focus on the amulet, figuring it would be their best bet for digging up some clues. They manage to get in contact with a folklorist, who then points them in the direction of a woman only identified as Inui. According to the folklorist, objects like the amulet differ in style depending on which type of practice it hails from. The construction of this one happens to be used primarily by the Inui clan. Now, the meeting with Inui starts off pretty normal, but quickly devolves. They ask about the masked woman, but Inui doesn't seem to recognize her based on the photo, and suddenly changes the topic to Kudo, of all people. More specifically, about his childhood. Inui talks about how something bad had happened to Kudo as a kid, and also adds in something about a mountain. Kudo asks Inui to stay on topic, and that's when we first learn the name Taki Misako, a local witch who, according to rumors, was supposedly involved romantically with Inui's younger brother, cursing and eventually killing him. This sets Inui off. She starts raising her voice, upset at the idea that a lesser witch might be able to curse someone from her clan. In fact, Inui claims that it was actually her who cursed Misako. The reasons why are never overtly stated. But is Misako the masked woman at all? They try to ask Inui again, but given the mask, she says she can't tell for sure. They then show Inui the so-called amulet, which she confirms is from her clan, but she also calls dangerous, explaining that whoever wears one is doomed to die. It of course begs the question, how did the masked woman learn how to make these things? Was it the younger Inui who showed her how? Right after this, Kudo asks if Inui could use her powers to track down Misako, and after slipping her some money, this happens. Following this encounter, Inui is incredibly disoriented, mumbling incoherently, which enrages Kudo. He screams at her repeatedly. Unable to get coherent answers, Kudo storms out, and Ichikawa follows close behind, Inui screaming at them not to come back as they exit her home. As they make their way back to the car, Ichikawa asks Kudo about the childhood stuff that Inui had brought up. Kudo explains that both of his parents were killed when he was a child, and that the killer was never brought to justice. A possible bit of information that might help explain why this person is so aggro to everyone that he interacts with. Back in the main neighborhood, Kudo and Ichikawa scour the area searching for the homeless man that they had interviewed earlier. Right as they found him, however, Inui's claims of impending danger proved to be valid. The man was struck by a car just before reaching the documentary crew. Upon review of the footage, it's revealed that the Kuchisake Onna was standing just beyond their grasp as this so-called accident took place. We later shift focus back to Yano and Kitamura, the two men who shot and submitted the original video that led to this whole chain of events. Yano, talking directly to his own camera, explains that late at night and into the early morning, someone's been knocking on his door. Any attempts to call out and ask who's there were met with silence. Eager to figure things out, Yano decides to use two cameras, one inside of his apartment facing the front door, and one placed outside, able to capture anyone who might come knocking. Kitamura is also present for emotional support. After waiting for some time, a knock finally does come.
Hi. 誰？なんか様子か？ちょっと見てみる。まだ。誰もいない。もういない。誰もいない。いない。どうする？開ける？開けてみる。大丈夫か？大丈夫か？
Yano and Kitamura show this footage to the documentarians, and this is when Kudo comes up with a plan. The two men were to wait just like they already had been, with their dual camera setup ready to capture footage, but this time Kudo and Ichikawa were going to be waiting outside in a car. Kudo still wants to try to capture this woman even after everything that's happened. Night 1 of their stakeout turns out to be a bust, and so was night 2, 3, 4, 5. And we finally arrive at day 6. The filmmakers finally spot the woman heading towards Yano's. Kudo quickly calls him up, telling him to stick to the script, something that wasn't mentioned on camera up until this very moment. We learn immediately, though, that said script had Yano posing as the other Inui, the younger brother of the witch we met earlier, who, if you recall, was rumored to have been romantically involved with Misako Taki.
そうですよ。僕です。乾です。
ここから出してくれるの？
美佐子さん、僕の子はどうしたの？僕の子を妊娠してたよね。お腹の子はどうしたの？
おいおいおいおい聞こえるか？おいどうした？おいおいマジなこれやばいやばい
もしもし、工藤さん、ちょっと助けてください。
おいじっとしてろ。
出てきた。刃物持ってる。刃物持ってます。刃物。
捕獲するぞ。
何してるんですか？
聞きました。おいちょっと置いた。おい田代どうだよ。おい走ってます。右に曲がってきました。
Following this encounter, Kudo tries running after the woman we now know is Misako, but he ultimately loses her in the darkness. Right after this, we jump forward in time a bit where we learn that Kitamura actually can't get in touch with Yano for whatever reason. He's disappeared and right now no one has any idea why. All there is to do is check out Yano's apartment since Kitamura happens to have a key. Once there, nothing sticks out to them aside from a neatly laid out collection of 6 amulets. Unsure of what to make of it, Kudo collects the objects in a bag. What he plans to do with them at the moment is not exactly clear. For now, the story comes to a close, but not before one last thing.
知らねえってのはなんだよお前。知らねえってなんだお前。さっきから。
言わない方がいいと思いますけど。
いいよ。はい。大丈夫。はい。もういいよ止めて。はい。
This thing, whatever it is, presumably Misako, is monstrous. A completely different interpretation of the slit-mouthed woman. One with a head that is massive, disproportionate, and seemingly stuck tilted to one side. The slit mouth now surpassing the face itself, and running all the way down the neck. As credits roll, we're left to try to interpret this transformation. Is Misako more powerful now, or maybe even turning into a full-blown monster? Since she used to be fully human, or so we think, maybe this is all part of the Inui curse. If so, then you have to wonder what the significance of the slit mouth was there. Did she do something that made the slit mouth thing kind of ironic in a sense? And if the curse really is what turned Misako into this thing, why would Inui seemingly grant supernatural powers to someone that she hated? We're also left to wonder what happened to Yano. Why was Misako even going up to his door and knocking anyway? And wherever he went, why were 6 amulets left behind? Is there any significance to the number? Of course, we're also left to wonder about the supposed baby Misako was pregnant with when everything went wrong. Where is that child now? Overall, I found this first installment to be pretty fun, albeit not as scary as other works by Koji Shiraishi. In fact, I really thought that I was in the clear up until that last reveal, which, to be honest, made me almost pee my pants even though I watched this thing in broad daylight. Still, I thought it was a super interesting take on the classic slit-mouthed woman, and definitely did a good job of dropping hints about our 2 main protagonists. I haven't watched any of the other episodes as of yet, but I can only assume that they'll eventually shed more light on these characters and the wider mythos of the universe that Ichikawa and Kudo inhabit. Now, I have seen some very, very short clips as well as some screenshots from the other episodes, and I'm guessing in certain parts it's going to venture into some batshit insane, occult type territory, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, then go ahead and watch this video. But yeah, with all that said, I just really wanted to talk about something cool that I found in time for Halloween. Happy spooky season, and once again, I'll see you all next time.